Mhm. To kind of shift gears here, still staying on the same theme of publishing, uh, with the rise in the Hispanic Catholic population here in the U.S., do you see more publishers seeking bilingual or native Spanish publishing endeavors?
That's a good. I'm not too aware of that. That's a whole different market from the market the companies I work for have served. Although we do have at our Sunday Visitor, there are, especially in our curriculum division, and in our pamphlet and parish division, a lot of our work is automatically appearing in Spanish as well. So there is a concern to serve the Spanish market. But it's a different kind of market. I think that there are special needs there, and publishers who are trying to serve the Hispanic population need to figure out how to serve their particular needs and their particular cultural expectations. So yes, there is a growing interest, but I think there's a learning curve on the part of publishers, and I'm not familiar with any Latino or Hispanic publishers that might already be doing that quite well.
Okay. Well, how about you? About approximately how much time do you dedicate to writing and reading per week? What would be your writing to reading ratio?
Well, that changes over time. I'm currently semi-retired, and I work half-time for our Sunday Visitor acquiring books. At half-time, I'm currently, doing some things like serving more in my parish than I have in the past. When I was, when in the past, when I was, more fully involved with writing and reading, I would say I read a lot because I have my main work is with publishers, so I'm reading all day long. My writing was in the past when I was really doing the bulk of my book writing. I could, I would find time during the week and on weekends to write. So there were times when I was writing my like Voices of the Saints. I would write in the morning for a couple hours before I started working. So, but my reading time was always expanded more than my writing time. I think here's what I think about writers who are trying to break into getting their stuff written and published. Reading is very important for writers. They need to read really good books, really good writers, and they need to do research for their writing. So there needs to be time spent reading in some proportion to their writing. I think it varies by person. I think that an author or a writer who wants to become an established author needs to figure out time in their life to read and time in their life to write. And I don't know whether you can really establish a generality or a proportion for everybody. I think people need to figure out what's best for themselves, but they need to do both. They can't neglect the reading, and they can't neglect the writing. They need to find a way to do both.
And then throw in a little blogging there for a little extra, right?
Right. Well, blogging, blogging is an opportunity to write, and I think that when you're blogging, you need to pay good attention to writing well, not just blowing things up at the top of your head. You need to craft your writing there so you don't develop bad habits.
Yep. True. Well, since you've read so many books, being the acquisitions director and having edited so many other books, including your own, what 3 books would you recommend to someone who shares in the mission of spiritual writing?
In terms of writing well, well, my favorite book on writing is William Zinsser's On Writing Well. It's in many different editions. It's a book that I used years ago, and it really transformed my approach to writing. It's a book about writing with care, a book about not wasting words. It's a real introduction to the craft of good writing. And so I recommend that book. There's also another book like it by Stephen King, the famous author, On Writing, which is a very good book. Those are 2 of my favorite books about writing. But there's another book that I recommend. It's Mortimer Adler's called How to Read a Book. Adler's is from the University of Chicago. He created a way to approach the great Western classics. But the book, I read the book after I completed my education, and I groaned because it would have really transformed the way I studied and read as a student. And because I found it so valuable, when I was a college teacher, I used to require it of every class, no matter what the class was. So freshmen, juniors, and sophomores and seniors all were required to read how to read a book. And any aspiring author would do well to read it, because the more you learn about how the skills of reading transforms your skills, it changes your skill, it helps you with your skills in writing. So the two main books are William Zinsser on writing well, and Mortimer Adler's How to Read a Book. Those are the ones I always recommend to writers, and I recommend them to you too, because you are growing up as a writer yourself.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Another question just on the topic of how to read a book. The way that people are reading nowadays with as much social media that there is, it seems like there's more of a shift to want to read these short little glimpses of obviously Twitter feeds and tweets and Facebook posts. Do you see the future generations in the way that they read? Do you see that changing at all?
Well, I think that it does change the way people read and think. I do agree with that. But I think if you're going to construct a book, my advice would be to learn how to be able to shape your book with a sensible. If you want to do short reads, you can do short chapters. Some of the best current books have a clear structure, a skeleton outline that they're following, but they accomplish it with short reads. So the experience of short reads can help create a really good book. But I don't think that yes, I do think it's changing the way people read and think. And I think that there may be some. I'm not informed enough to know about what that's going to be, but I think in order to be a clear thinking and writing person, you need to be able to develop a consistent longer book, even if it's compiled with short chapters.
Mm. Perhaps we can co-author another book, you and I, Bert, how to read everything, not just a book.
There you go. How to read a tweet.
There you go. Maybe we can get Brandon on board.
That's right. He'd be glad to help. Hey. As a matter of fact, you should talk to Brandon about some of these topics, because he's thought about it all much more thoroughly than I have.
Hey, Bert, to which saint, since you're the author of Voices of the Saint, but to which saint do you most often pray for intercession?
Well, I have a number of favorite saints, and when I pray for intercession, I really gather them around me in the morning when I'm praying. So I invite them to join me in praying, rather than asking them to intercede. I'm often asked, who is your favorite saint? And my favorite saint is Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati, because he presents the right balance of ordinary human life, the joy of being a friend and an athlete and the joyful life. Although at the same time, he was a man who prayed, who spent time in adoration, who served the poor, but he was normal. And I think what he holds out to me is the possibility that anybody who's living a life in the ordinary secular environment as a Catholic and as a Christian can be joyful, can deal with suffering, because he had a lot of difficulties in his life with his family, and reach out to serve others and live a holy life. So I think he's a remarkable model, not only for young people. He's a model for youth, of course, but he's also a model for all of us, even us older people. And so I do ask him to join me in prayer. I also invite his contemporary, Therese of Lisieux, whom I think highly of as well, but many others. I have a lot of, in my study and reading of the saints, I have many who I regard as friends who can intercede for me. And so I do. But those are two that I often call upon.
Last question, Bert. Where can people find you?
Well, they can find. I have a website. It's a pretty static website. It's www.bertghezzi.com. It's not been updated recently, but my webmaster is my son, who is working on it, but he's not gotten to it recently. And but it'll has on it a list of my books. It has some family information. It has some articles. It also has the radio interviews I have done with Eternal Word. I've done 100 2-minute spots on saints. They're all on there as well, and it has some videos, little videos that I've done. So it's not if somebody's roaming the web and drops on BertGhezzi.com, they'll look at it for a few minutes and pass on because it's not lively, but people can find me there. And if they, if my books are available at through any bookstore, either Christian or secular, and they can be on the web, on the web sales as well.
Well, Bert, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. We really appreciate it.
Well, I enjoy our friendship, TJ, and I'm happy to serve you any way I can, and I really thank you for taking time to talk to me.
Wonderful. There you have it, Bert Ghezzi. Find him at bertghezzi.com. That's BertGhezzi.com. And thanks again, Bert.
Oh, you're very, very welcome, TJ.